Poddin My Noggin, hosted by CK Sims, creating a platform to elevate, educate, and heal by creating a space where people can share their stories of struggle, triumph, and redemption. CKS Media.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Poddin My Noggin. I'm your host, as always, CK Sims, and this week we are joined by Shellie R. Warren.
Yay!
How are you?
I'm good, and thank you for saying Shellie R. Warren and not just Shellie Warren. That's awesome.
Well, I like to read it as people write it, so I would imagine if you've written it that way, that's how you want it said.
You'd be amazed how profound you are, though. People miss that all the time. So thank you.
Fair, that's fair. I had someone. I guess I didn't realize that my whatever this is, Riverside. Sorry. Shows my first name, my whole name, which I don't go by.
Mm-hmm.
So someone came in a couple weeks ago and they were like, "So do you go by Curtis?" And I'm like, "What?" I'm like,
Does it? No.
I'm like, but no. At first, I was just shocked. I was like, "Wait, what?" I'm like, "How did you even know my name?" And so he explained what it was, and then I was like, "Okay, perfect."
Yeah, human nature is amazing. Like even when you go on YouTube. And people clearly, whatever name they presented on the platform is the name they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then people be like, so what's your real name? Well, what's your mom? And it's like, if I wanted you to know that, it'd be,
It would be there, exactly. It would be there for you to see.
Come on.
Well, welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I was looking through what you've provided.
Okay.
And I find so many things about you extraordinarily fascinating. What I want to without even meeting you, you get like reading what you've written and the things that you do, the vibe that you give is that you are so comfortable in who you are.
Thank you.
And like, so I'm like, okay, so I have goosies because, to me, how profound is that in today's society to meet a woman, okay, and then on top of that, a woman of color who has found that comfort. How wonderful is that? It gives me goosies in such a great, wonderful way that I hope this episode is viewed by people who can take something away and find their own place. But Shellie, let's go ahead. No, you go ahead.
It's definitely a sacrifice. And I'm a writer. I celebrate 25 years of writing full time this year. And I'm really proud of that because it's rare to be able to do that, especially with the way they pay now. But that's a whole nother conversation, right? Because I'm a writer, I'm word specific. I like actual dictionary definitions of words, not social media definitions of words.
Yes.
And sacrifice means to give up something good for something greater. It has been a sacrifice. I think I was born really liking myself. And a lot of trauma came to take me out of really liking myself. And then I made sacrifices to get back to who I was born to be. But it was indeed some sacrifices. Like you got to let some people go, including blood people. You've had to alter boundaries. You have to say no to some things. You have to self-correct. You have to hold yourself accountable. But I thank you for saying that. It means something different. It's kind of like the saying, trust children and animals. And children and animals adore me. A lot of adults, I'm kind of like beer. You know, beer is very polarized. People either love the taste of beer or they don't like the taste of beer. I'm okay with that. But I think a part of the reason why I'm okay with that is because kids and dogs like me. And then I'm really grateful when strangers pick that up about me. You don't know me at all. So you don't have anything to go on but by what you studied. Like you haven't experienced me, right? And so that makes the compliment hit differently than people that do know me. So thank you.
Well, that's just, I'm all about energy because I think that's what we are. Essentially. Everything around us is energy. As I was reading what I was reading and what you've written, gosh, first day with my new tongue, that's what I was getting. It's just like this sense of comfort in who you are. And like, I would say for myself, in the last 8 years, I have achieved a level of that I didn't know was ever possible. But just as you said, there are sacrifices.
100%.
Right? And oh my gosh, there's so many. Oh, I feel like we could probably have 26 podcast episodes diving into all of it. But oh, so you mentioned at one point that your parents have said on loop that you were a not quite, I'm paraphrasing, no BS type person. Like straight
Yeah.
from the
So, yeah. It's funny, not funny. 10 years ago, last month, I lost my father, and my father took his life. But we were very close. That was my buddy. So, in kind of honor of him, I got a necklace made with the 3 nicknames he used to always call me, and it was big girl, fat leg. But the other thing he used to say all the time is, "You're not human." And I was like, what does that mean? The last year of his life, we did a lot of unpacking, and I'm really grateful for that because a lot of the answers I needed, I got. And he was like, you're just a different kind of chick. Like, I don't, spiritually, you're very different. You've always been just very, I'm going to say it and I'm going to say it. And then my mother is the same way. She was like, sometimes people would think I'm rude because if I ever saw you standing off talking to somebody, I would break conversation. Like, what is she talking about? So, for example, a story she gave me is I was like 2 or 3. We were getting on the bus, and this woman said to me, "You're such a pretty little girl." And I said, "And you look like a clown." Because she just had so much makeup on, right? So, yes, it has been, my parents both know who they birthed, but quite frankly, and I don't think this kind of topic's discussed enough. Sometimes parents have a hard time with the children that they've created.
Me too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. We don't come with handbooks. Like,
No.
God might deliver us to them, but He doesn't send down that, you know, like parchment paper of like, FYI, this is how you need to love this person, or this is how you need to sort of curb this behavior, or whatever the situation.
Or take your ego out of your parenting because we're not here to be your toy soldier, right?
Yes.
Like you are gifted to be able to navigate how I'm supposed to be, but not who I'm supposed to be. Like one thing I'm grateful for with my mom, and we're actually estranged right now by my choice. So we can touch on that later or not. But there are several things I'm grateful for. She's still my mom. And she said when I was a little girl, my favorite toy was shaking newspaper. So she's like, "Oh, I have a writer." Instead of being like, "But I want you to be a doctor. I want you to be a lawyer." Now I wish she had been like that across the board, you know, but how awesome would it be if more children had parents that were like, first of all, you're not raising children through your own trauma from your parents, but also you're humble enough to be like, they're on loaner. Like, if you really believe they come from God, or then you should already understand they're not yours. They're like loaned to you for a season to navigate their path to be the safest, healthiest, most vibrant person they can be. They're not here to be what you want.
Yeah.
They miss that. But it's not taught either, right? People just get married. People just have children. They don't really think about, like, why am I doing this? Should I be doing this?
Well, yes, there's
when
this.
should I do this? You know,
Yes.
Ugh.
And I think that that's the thing too. You know, having babies and having a family is romanticized, and that's done by society, media, everywhere you look. It's you know, right now in the U.S., it's very like we should be having more babies, more children, more families. But like, it's hard. It's not easy, and like, it's a commitment, right? So
It needs to have a purpose. Like a model that I live by is, if you don't know the purpose of something, you're going to abuse it. You just are. So I'm extremely pro family. You know, I work in marriage. I'm not married. We can touch on that in a minute too. But I'm extremely pro all those things. I just need you to know why you're doing it, if it's the right time to do it, if this really is the person you should do life with. You know how many people you can love, but you shouldn't do life with on an intimate level? you shouldn't raise children with because your value systems are different. So I agree with you, and I will add to what you said. America romanticizes things to the point of you think, well, if I feel like I love you, that's all that matters.
It's not though.
No, it's not. It's relevant, but it's not all that matters.
Yes, absolutely, and I would agree with that. It's I feel like that would be one of the surface sort of.
Or foundational, but you got to build. You know, like compatibility, and if someone compliments you is such a big deal. I don't think people really get, unless you have lived with someone before you got married, how much it's the little things that lead to divorce, not the big things.
Mm-hmm.
I work with couples that survived infidelity, but I also work with couples that are like, if you pee on that seat one more time, one more time. If you leave that dish in that sink one more time, 20 years of it, right? So it's like you really do have to figure out, also be friends. A lot of people don't like each other. They're together, but they don't like each other. And how do we know that? Because y'all always trying to change each other, which means you don't like each other.
Well, and I think I love that saying. I love that part because I think that if we could approach everybody in our lives with and remove the notion that we could change them, or we're going to be the ones that's going to make them change their
Whatever
tenured behavior or little quirks and things like that. If we could stop doing that, I think we would see a decline in maybe first marriages, but then also divorces, because you're actually figuring out, okay, do I accept this person and who they are as a whole, right? And can I maintain that commitment and that promise for the duration of life after we get married or
Well, that
after you
ties
become
back
pregnant?
into humility because we tend to want what we're not going to give. We want someone else to accept us as we are, but then we got
Mm-hmm.
an Old Testament scroll of things that they need to change or do, right? I
Yeah.
wrote an article a couple of years ago that touched on that, and it's kind of a play on words, but improve and change are not exactly the same thing. And so the article was saying your partner should improve you, not change you. And where that was coming from is change is manipulation, change is stressful, change is pressure when someone else is trying to do it.
Of
But
course.
if
And it's
you're in an
conditional.
environment where you feel comfortable enough to improve on your own, where you feel like this person you trust to hold you accountable to improve on your own, yeah, a partner should definitely do that. But if someone's just like, why can't you do this less? Why can't you do this more? Why do you think like that? Why are you with me?
Yep. Absolutely. And it applies not even just to romantic relationships either.
1000%.
It's like I look at my very small circle
Mm,
of two best friends. That's it.
good for
Really,
you.
that's it. And we have a lot of things in common, but we're also different in a lot of ways. But we complement each other,
For sure.
and we grow because of our friendship. But that was going back to what you said earlier about sacrifice. That was a part of the sacrifice, right? Reducing my circle to really just two core people and my sister, and it's very small up in here. But you know what? I got my piece.
But it's small, but it's quality, right? And
Oh,
if
it
it's
is
quality,
definitely
that's
fun.
all you need. And
Absolutely.
honestly, if you're a good friend and you really get what that word means, and we should teach children that from a young age, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's not your friend. There's levels to this thing. There's acquaintances, and there's a lot of space between enemy and friend. We're kind of taught, well, if you're not my friend, you're my enemy. No, you're not. You ever heard the Aristotle quote, like you should have work friends, leisure friends, and good friends?
No, I haven't, but I would agree with all that.
And he said one of our biggest problems is we try to overlap those. There's some people you really just want to go to the movies with, or get a drink
Mm-hmm.
with, or laugh with. They don't know any of your business, but you have a ball. Do yoga with, whatever. And then there's people you build with. You have great ideas. It's like think tank friends, work friends. And then there's the people that are the uncomfortable friends. They're going to call you on your shit. And they're called good friends. They're the ones that are like, no, you need to get yourself together. But you need them too, right?
Oh my
But
gosh, yes.
the thing I have learned is my friends can call me at 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
My friends, if they lost their job, they know I got them. I'm going to send some money. My friends, I'm coming to them when they're sick. No, I don't want 12 of those people. It's too much work.
Yes.
My friends, I value that word to where you know that's what it means if I call you.
Yes. I love that. I totally love that. And I think that that's where I always look at it as I've won the lottery,
For sure.
right? Because I get two.
For
And
sure.
people I can call and they'll be here, or vice versa, and it's reciprocity, and um, we just it's beautiful, and I'm always very grateful for it. You had mentioned, so
Oh,
you have,
can I add one more thing before
of
we finish?
course.
I want to share this because someone I think needs to hear it. My mother's husband used to say something to me I also think is wisdom. He said he has two confidants that are not his friends. They're only confidants. And he says when you lose one, don't replace them either. That's who you call and you can tell them anything. You know it's not going anywhere. You need those two. And at first I used to be like, well, why can't they be friends? And he was like, it overlaps. It gets too complicated. Like, for instance, if you told your confidant something that involved two of your friends, now that friend is wondering, should they tell the friend? But you know, if you just have a separate confidant, you can unload and they can do the same and it's safe. So those are great people to have in your life too. Just a safe place to just, I need to get this out. And it's not going to go anywhere and you're going to die with it.
Love this. So, work friends, leisure friends, friends, and
Confidants.
confidants.
And
There we go.
acquaintances.
And acquaintances. Yes,
Just
and
surface stuff.
it's but it's all in the hierarchy, really,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
interesting too because I think I was watching Simon Sinek.
Mm.
He had mentioned something that we used to have like our friend groups, and now when you're showing up in relationships, you're expecting all of that you got from your friend groups from your significant other, and how important it is to actually still maintain your friend group so that they
Mm.
don't overlap,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I just saw it on a social media thing, which for anybody listening, you don't do, and I
No.
want to talk about that later. But yeah, so that I found that really interesting. So you are many things.
Mm-hmm.
You're a doula.
Mm-hmm.
How long has that been happening? Like, how does one become a doula?
For sure. And thank you for asking that. Because of the maternal rate among the Black community, a lot of people just assume that's why I did it, and it's not. A part of my testimony, journey, message is my 20s were very active. I'll be 51 in June, but my 20s were very active. A part of that was for abortion. So when I became a teen mom director for the local chapter of a nonprofit, it just happened to be because that's how God works. Those girls were as old as my children would have been, or some of the girls were. So that was healing in itself, just kind of playing a role in parenting them. But some of these girls were track stars. You know, you're 16, you got a great body, there's no cellulite and fat, your metabolism's high. These doctors were planning cesareans on babies. But here's one of the things about two things about cesareans. One, because it's serious surgery, they can charge thousands or more dollars than a vaginal birth. Two, they can schedule them. There was one, I live in Nashville, Tennessee. So there was one time many years ago that a particular hospital here, they realized more babies were born on Tuesday than any other day of the week. Why? Because they were scheduling cesarean. And then going golfing or grocery shopping or whatever they were doing. So I initially became a doula for them, to advocate for them. But the more that I've been doing the work, it's just been very healing for me. Like, it's funny because even when I'm birthing adults, I kind of feel bad because it's almost selfish in a way, but sometimes I'm crying more than everybody else. I will never get over humans coming out of other humans. And I've seen plenty of humans come out of humans. I never get over it. I never get over it. It's one of the greatest miracles of life. And if children are, because I work with midwives a lot, So oftentimes that means no epidurals or any medication. Those children are coming out like, hey, what's up? It's amazing. It's amazing. I've transitioned a little bit into, I think when you know your purpose, it multiplies. So initially I was a baby doula. Like I don't have a website for it. I just kind of get led to the people I need to birth. It's not a full-time thing. But I've kind of grown into like a purpose doula now. I definitely know God has put me here to help push people's creative babies through. I used to struggle with that because I would have ideas, give them to people, not intellectual property issues, but just great ideas. Like, you should try this as a musician. You should try this as a designer. Watch them blow up and be mad. And then God revealed to me, no, like that's still your doula work. Like you're helping people get their babies. So that has been a huge revelation for me because now I can celebrate every baby. Human babies, creative babies, everybody's babies I've been a part of.
I love this. I love that. And it's so interesting too because like I resonate with both parts of that story in the sense where you said, you know, you give people great ideas, they blow up, and then you get sort of resentful
Like,
or what the hell? Like that was
right?
my idea. Like where's mine? Sort of kind of thing. Been there, right? And then I feel like there's like I don't know if it's only healing or if it's healing and growth or whatever. You get to a point where, for me, if I see someone take a piece of advice and run with it, then and they do well, I can sit back and smile and just in myself know I'm like, you know what? I'm so proud of them. They did great, and I played a little part in whatever they've done.
And
Right?
I think a part of it too. So I'm gonna tell a specific story. I've never told it. She always tells it. So my godchildren's mom, I'm gonna brag on her a little bit because she's bomb. Her name's Reese Palmer. Oh, in the early 2000s, Reese was the first Black woman to chart on Billboard in the country music genre. She has now got an Apple podcast called Color Me Country in honor of Linda Martell, and it's been a whole resurgence of her career. Her new album is going to come out in the fall. Reese, we're glad your new album's finally coming out. Reese and I met when she was on a pause in her Doula Inc. When she was in a pause in her career. All hell had broken loose. She and her label went to court. She was like, I'm done. And she was dating a guy at the time that I didn't think was a good idea. And I was like passive aggressively tagging her on Facebook at the time. She was about to leave Nashville, and we were both like, all this talking we've done online, we should meet. We were at a mall here in Nashville for like 6 hours, and we've been inseparable since. The way that I eat, drink, and live marriage, sex, and the biblical Sabbath, which is like another conversation, is the way she eats, drinks, and lives country music. She is a walking, freaking encyclopedia of all things country music, right? I love Reese. I enjoy country music, but the way she is about country and about R&B, I don't want to hear about that all day. So I used to say, Reese, just do a podcast. Do a podcast and get that all off your chest. She was like, who's going to even care? They'll care. Maybe 2 or 3 months in, Apple picked her up.
That's amazing.
And it's been now CMT correspondent, and she's speaking at Yale on Friday. Like, I'm tearing up because I'm just, right? But there was a brief little minute. And she actually sent me a check for $1,000 acknowledging the fact that if you hadn't pushed me to do this podcast, where would I be, right? But there was me for a brief little moment, not thrilled for her. But it was kind of like, well, where are my doulas? Right? Like, where am I always? But when I really started to get that the whole reason why I became a doula in the first place was probably more about creative babies than human babies, it gave me a lot of peace. So now, you know, like when she told me she's speaking at Yale Friday, because she's a great, look, Reese Palmer, she's awesome. She's a great artist, but she's such a curator of country music. And to see her finally getting acknowledged on that level, right? And you're right, to be able to look back and be like, and when she was in the kitchen washing those dishes, taking care of my goddaughter, I said, start a podcast. That wasn't a little contribution. That was a huge contribution. And when we do that, God entrusts us to get the message to the right person. How can it be any bigger of an honor than when God assigns you to help somebody birth a creative baby? You really don't need anything else.
True. It's true. Amen to that. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Partner today with CK Sims and Poddin My Noggin to get in front of an audience that cares. You will be supporting mental health stories, tales of resilience, and uplifting content, aligning your brand with bringing goodness, authenticity, and kindness front and center. This spot could be yours. Do you have a story of struggle and resilience? One that you want to share with others and possibly help someone through their own struggles? Find the link in the show description and fill out the guest form today.
Welcome back, everybody. Before the break, we were talking to Shellie R. Warren about her life thus far and her experience from joining a chapter of a local charity for teen mentoring, becoming a doula, birthing lots of babies, and then this manifesting over time into truly like birthing creative babies.
And I'm grateful for you today because I just had an aha moment. Because remember, I told you that a part of the doula work is healing from my abortions, right? Yes. Everybody has their own feelings about abortion. I'm speaking for my feelings about abortion. Mm-hmm. When fear can tempt you to get in the way of someone else's potential purpose, how ironic to be put in a position to help people birth purpose. When a part of what I was carrying was maybe I was hindering purpose, right? You just never know how life. So thank you for that. Because that was my first time like connecting that to like 4 aborted babies, but look at all these other babies. Babies everywhere. Just babies everywhere.
Awesome. Babies everywhere.
Awesome.
Yes. So let's talk about sex and divorce. So I didn't know that those words would come out of my mouth on a podcast. So, but okay, so another part of what you do, which is, so for those joining, and you can find out more, and I'll link the website.
Exo Nicole, probably.
Yes, Exo Nicole.
So Exo Nicole is a women's lifestyle magazine. It's not mine. Will Packer acquired it. He's a phenomenal producer, and I write for them. But I do write for them a lot. So it's funny because some people will be like, "Oh, I love your website." It's not my website.
Okay.
Yes, it's a women's lifestyle website. It's been around for years. I'm just a feature writer on it. Okay. But yes, I enjoy the topic of sex. How do I frame this? Partially because, so I was sexually molested. That's a part of my story. That's a lot of people's story. And then because of my trauma, went to college. I'm coming to realize wasn't nearly as promiscuous as I thought I was, but did come to college not really understanding what I was doing about sex, just kind of doing it. Mm-hmm. And then taking a break from sex, and then working with the organization that dealt with porn for 9 years. So that gave me another perspective of sex. And then just being like, because my background is Christianity, I do prefer the word disciple now. That's another conversation too. But Christians are complicated people. I say often I like the Bible. Christians kind of wear me out. But just realizing how little is taught about sex, especially marital sex. When you grow up in the church, you're just kind of told, don't have it, don't have it, don't have it. Boom, have it. And the people who are dealing with their own baggage from having it, and then people that don't know what the hell to do in marriage. I was like, oh, I'll kind of get in that niche. And that's what I've been doing. So yes, I talk about sex a lot. The hook for that is I have not had sex.
But you've had it. You've had it, right? you've experienced it. You worked with porn for a long period of time.
Look, you'd be amazed your sex memory. You know, like they talk
Oh,
about muscle memory,
oh yeah.
sex
Well,
memory.
I always just think it's funny because, and this is why I'm going to say this now. Um, when you're training a puppy to go on like pee pads or
Mm-hmm.
outdoors, like
Mm-hmm.
it's always that positive reinforcement
Mm.
that gets them to remember.
Right.
Well, I would imagine that sex is very positive reinforcement for when it's consensual. Let's be clear, but
Yeah, yeah.
in the sense
Yeah.
that like you're having an orgasm.
Yeah.
If you're a dude, you're having an orgasm. Let's also be clear. For
Yeah.
if you're a woman, maybe, maybe.
Well, let's pause, right? Because I talk about sex a lot. A lot of women have clitoral orgasms. They don't have vaginal orgasms. Meaning, so when you see the study and it says 75% of women don't have orgasms, what it's talking about is not just from penetrative sex. If you're not involving the clitoris, they're not having one. But a lot of women can have an orgasm. They just don't have it just from intercourse. You got to be touching on that thing some kind of way. But
Yeah,
going back to like how churches screw people over, pun intended, when has anyone really heard a sermon that the clitoris, scientifically, the only purpose of it is so a woman can have an orgasm? When have we heard that?
never.
We haven't. There's so much like, it's amazing how Genesis says, be naked and not ashamed, you know, documented what the Lord told Adam and Eve, and there's all this shame in sex. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I fit in. Like, why are we ashamed to talk about sex? I used to go when I was touring with the porn people because they were Christian based, but they were buck wild. Like, they had a documentary called Missionary Positions. Like, they were buck wild.
Progressive Christian.
100%.
Oh, okay, beautiful, beautiful. I love it.
100%. So I would go to churches and be like, who's engaged or who just came back from their honeymoon? I'd be like, you had sex? Yeah. And nobody wanted to raise their hand. I'm like, you're married. You don't think we know you had. So I've just kind of come in to be like, there's nothing wrong with talking about sex. Let's do a little reprogramming about sex. I will be honest, my passion is marital sex. So I talk about sex a lot, but my passion is within my work.
Of course.
So I think we also need to, this would be like another conversation for another time, but like, there's so many nuances to sex. All of us are not experts in that nuance. Like one of my editors at one time, she was like, can you do some articles on lesbian sex? I can. You should hire someone to do articles on lesbian sex. Because it's not fair to just say, throw the they pronoun in and say everybody has the same needs, expectations, want. It's not fair. But that's something else we don't talk about with sex, right? It's almost like one size fits all. Everybody does the same way. Everybody has the same needs and expectations.
Yeah,
That's,
well, because it's not cookie cutter.
it's not.
It's never been
It's
cookie
never
cutter.
been.
Now, I have a question, a hard hitting question for you.
Okay.
Why do you think that people don't talk about the clitoris orgasm?
People perish for lack of knowledge. Ignorance. I mean, because also the clitoris is a mini penis. It's got foreskin. I let women have it all the time. Like women, look, I eat, drinks, and sleep married, sex, and savage, right? So women that like to make jokes about uncircumcised men, you have your nerve talking about an uncircumcised man when some of y'all's vulvas and labias, we don't talk about that. All that extra skin some of y'all got, but you want also uncircumcised men give women more orgasms because that extra skin is actually rubbing on the G spot. We're just not talking about it because we don't know. Clitorises get erect like penises do. Clitorises have foreskin like penises do. Stop it. Just
That's
ignorant.
it's so what's interesting, and I'll be transparent with you. Is I
Okay.
did not know any of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of people don't. But here's the thing about purpose, right? Which is why all of us have a different one. I don't expect people to. I study it. Like I'm going to look for what's going on with the clitoris. I want to know about uncircumcised penises. I want to know about different ways to have an orgasm. Some men don't even know that just because you ejaculated, you didn't always have an orgasm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes you had a really great feeling. Sometimes you just ejaculated. We don't talk about that. And I'm just kind of like, the more that we learn these things, the more comfortable we can be with our bodies and the more that we can fully enjoy sex. So yeah, I'm pretty sure my family wished I didn't enjoy talking about sex as much as I do, but It's fine. I don't care.
So, I mean, I talk about sex a lot, but that's just because I'm dirty-minded. So not because I'm actually like educated like yourself, right? So, um, you know, my friends, my sister, who is a beautiful, beautiful Christian woman,
Mm-hmm.
she's so used to me,
Mm.
but like we all know that my mind lives in the gutter.
Yeah.
Anything anybody says, it makes me giggle because half the
You're gonna
time
find a sex
it's
twist to
not.
it.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know where that came from. Like I wasn't raised that way or exposed to that,
Mm.
but boy, that's how my brain functions. And so yeah, so talking about sex, but I'm also of the firm belief I've always been the type of person that talk about periods, talk about perimenopause,
Mm.
menopause, talk about
Mm-hmm.
like the things that your body experiences that
Mm-hmm.
we all know every single person, is experiencing these things.
I mean, men go through andropause. We don't talk
I,
about that either.
I don't know what that is, but maybe I'm
So
having it
it's
right
like
now.
as you age, just your testosterone dropping as you age and what men's bodies go through. It's so funny because I haven't had a new friend in years. And here's another thing about me and friends. I don't really care for my friends to be friends. Here's why. Here's why. I there's one of the best compliments my friends have given me is like you're very self-aware. I tell people once a year, ask your friends to describe you in one word and see what you hear the most. And what I hear the most is self-aware. I know I can be a lot. And by a lot, I just mean I'm direct. I definitely have an opinion. Sometimes you're going to be like, that bitch. And you need to find somebody to say that to. Why does it need to be our friend? Go say it to your friend. I don't know her. Say everything you need to say about me. I'm never going to see her. So it's been very peaceful. Some of my friends, because I started out in the entertainment industry and I live in Nashville, yes, some of my friends know each other. But I'm not the girl that if I ever get married, I'm having a bridal shower so all y'all can sit and talk to each other. No. I prefer to get
Keep them separate.
cremated. We don't even have to do a funeral. If y'all didn't know each other all this time, you don't need to know each other now. It's fine. But, oh, where was I going with that? Friend, what were we talking about? Because I just lost my thought.
Oh, you're asking andropause.
Oh, okay. Because I have not really made a new friend in years, this means a lot of my, except for Reese, and Reese's like 15 years at this point. And she's younger than me. I'll be 51, she'll be 44. But most of my friends are close to my age and we've been in each other's lives for 20 years. So you're literally watching people's libidos over 20 years, right? Most of my guy friends are I have a lot of guy friends. I adore them. They're very attractive. They're the 666 guy. You know the 666 guy?
I do not.
Okay. So it's kind of bigger like in probably bigger in black culture, but the 666 is six figures, 6 feet, 6 inches or more.
Oh,
That's kind
okay.
of like the high value man, 666. And it's
There
so
we go.
interesting that it's 666, right?
I know because like when you said that, I'm like, so
Yeah, where
Mark
are we
of the
going?
Beast
Right.
guy.
So I'm so honored that most of my male friends are six. I don't know always about that six, but the other sixes, yeah. And so they've never had a problem getting women. When they're in their 30s, sometimes I'd be like, please just go home. Like, haven't you had enough? But now they're like 50s, late 40s, 50s. And now it's like, I mean, sex is great. So is a nap. So is this meal. Right?
It's true though.
That's
It's true.
andropause. Your testosterone's dropping. So we're always talking about our estrogens dropping, but y'all's testosterone's dropping too.
Huh. This is interesting. Yeah, because when I was in my 20s, now I'm not going to say that my 30s were that much better,
Mm.
but when I was in my 20s, I was a wild child. If you had three legs, we were going home.
You're
That's
going.
it. It was that. Oh yes, my
What a
parents do
time.
not watch this
What a
podcast.
time.
Thank God. So, but my sister, the lovely Christian that I told you about, she edits this podcast.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
sorry, you know who you are.
That's hilarious.
But uh, and it's so funny. I just have to stop for a second to tell you that she's pretty open about she's just non-judgmental,
Mm,
right? She's not the Christians as we know it, if you
mm,
will. She's what I always call a true Christian, someone who actually like lives to be like Jesus,
mm.
right? So the only thing she takes issue with is if I take the Lord's name in vain. So we came up
Interesting.
with an agreement that if I do that, she'll mute it and put a Bible in front of my
That
face.
is so funny.
I love
That's
it.
so funny.
But yeah, so Andropause, interesting. I'm learning so much today. Um, so okay, so I want to also touch on the fact that you work with divorced couples,
I do.
and
Yeah, I do. I do. I work with mostly married people, but there are divorced people that come my way that I strive to reconcile. Yeah.
so what I'm curious about this because you indicated that you came from a divorced family as well, so
Mm-hmm.
you have experience with that.
Mm-hmm.
What is your goal, or what compels you, if you will, to want to help them reconcile? And is there something in that process where you're like, oh hell no, this is a this is a
Mm-mm. So,
no?
so if there's any portion of the program that will feel like come to the altar and leave your offering, it'll be this. The answer for this. Remember, I said I'm very fond of the Bible. I am. And even with judgment, I just want to put this in here because I want to encourage people to consider saying more compassionate rather than not judgmental. Here's why though.
Mm.
Because when you look at the scripture, judge not, and people like to run with that, they're not quoting the whole scripture. It's actually reminding you to hold yourself accountable if you're going to try to have the nerve to hold somebody else accountable. Make sure your backyard is together first. And I love that Christ took that approach because when you've done the work to clean your backyard, you have way more love when you're helping someone else with their backyard. As
Yeah.
opposed to you just fix it and I'm not going to fix anything. I just thought that was important to say because accountability, I say this to people often. If I said you're cute, you said thank you, and I just judged you. People don't have problems with judgment. They don't like criticism and accountability or how it's delivered. I just thought that was important to say.
I love that call out, because I totally agree with you. And we think of judgment as negative, if you will, but just as you indicated, it could be a
It
compliment.
can be positive and necessary. I mean,
Yes.
discernment literally means judgment. So it's
Yes.
like we're creating these entitled narcissists because nobody can hear anything about themselves unless it's a compliment. That's dangerous.
See, and that's oh my gosh, literally could do a month of Sundays having conversations with you. But I think that's a massive call out, right? So if I were to course correct what I said, non-judgmental, and use what you said, she is definitely more
Compassionate.
compassionate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that's where I have come, and I totally feel it from my experiences that I have a 35 and a post 35. There's a life event at 35.
Mm-hmm.
And pre 35, I just wasn't a great person.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I'm the living God, living sort of proof that hurt people hurt people,
For sure.
and healed people heal people.
For sure.
Right? And so when you talk about, cleaning your backyard, when I went through that sacrifice, when I went through that major change
Mm-hmm.
and did the work and did all of the things that we talked about earlier, now I look at the world through kindness. It doesn't mean that I don't get angry or pissed off or like look
Yeah.
at certain
Yeah.
leaders and be like, oh boy. But at the same time, I want to I want to teach people love.
Mm-hmm.
Because and to be kind, but
And
first
I
you have
like
to
that
be
you use
kind
the
to
word
yourself.
kind instead of nice.
No,
Nice
there's a
means
distinction.
agreeable. Kind means benevolent, right?
Yes.
So, no, it can be dangerous to be nice. I mean, even the Bible says love is kind. It doesn't say love is nice. Which,
No. Yeah.
kindness still holds you accountable. Accountability is a big deal. But to answer your divorce question, because I am biblical, especially about marriage, I think it's Marriage is serious. We have dated like we're married, so we don't value marriage anymore.
Oh, that's
We
wow.
don't.
Those
Your
nuggets.
boyfriend or your girlfriend is not your husband or your wife. Stop, stop it, stop it, stop it. So yes, when people say, "Well, how can you advise people on marriage when you've never been married?" Depending on who I'm speaking to, the answers are either A, but I come from divorce, 2 times divorce at that. My mom's on her third marriage and that one stuck. And I come from generations of my paternal grandmother was married 6 times and the last one stuck. Children are really insightful when they're watching adults fuck up their life. They are. They're very insightful. So that's one reason. When the second thing I say is, but the divorce rate is still sticking at 50%. It's a crapshoot with married people's advice too. They don't know. Half of them don't know what they're doing either. So if you're just qualifying me based on relational status, stop it. If I'm talking to a Christian, let's turn to Moses, Christ, Paul spoke the most on marriage. Moses was the only one who was married. So that means you don't want to hear anything Christ has to say on marriage or Paul has to say on marriage. And that's on you. I'm just sharing that with you.
Yeah.
And what I've studied, even a simple scripture like love your wife like Christ loved the church, Christ never divorced us. And we plotted to kill him. Like scripture says, Pharisees plotted to kill him. I think from a spiritual or biblical standpoint, it's like if you want to love, let's not even say like Christ. If you want to learn to love sacredly and divinely, get married. If you don't want to learn that, please stay single. Because nothing will teach you how to love like marriage. Because you've got to look at someone's flaws, you've got to compromise, you've got to be humble, you got to forgive. Nothing, because even children are not the same. I challenge people that all the time. Of course, you love your children, they do what you say. We don't even realize how selfish we are about our love for our own kids. We can control kids up to a certain point, right? You can't control these adults. So I'm just like, more times than not, did you ever see It's Complicated? Alec Baldwin and Meryl Streep years ago, that movie?
Yes. Yes.
Remember that line when he said, most people are divorced after 10 years, they should just get back together. You already know each other's flaws. You know each other's nuances. You just need time to grow up, get back together. I kind of feel that way. More divorced people just don't have the tools to reconcile. But the people who have been able to be used to help do that, their marriages are better than ever. And P.S. about 40% of people regret getting divorced anyway.
Well, and I'm not married.
Okay.
Never have been, and probably never will be.
Interesting.
However, well, I've come to be quite comfortable as a single human being,
Understood.
and, but I'm not opposed to it.
I hear
So
you. You're just at
if
peace
it,
if you do, at peace if you don't.
exactly, and
Yeah.
it's going to have to take a very curated male
Understood.
sent by the Lord to
Understood.
enter into this life that I've built for myself. But I feel like too, for a lot of married people, you need to turn off the noise, the external noise,
Mm,
because if you are there sitting on your phones or your computers or you're watching media and you are thinking that everything that you're consuming is what's waiting for you on the other side of this divorce, then you are going to be sadly mistaken, because we always think the grass is greener and this weight is holding us down and I can't be, and he does this and she does that and all of this sort of thing, and then the next thing you know, they're out, but they're not happy.
well, another challenge with divorce too, because like for every time you get married again, the divorce rate jumps like 15 to 20%. So if a
Oh.
first marriage is 50%, the second is like 69. The third is like 76. It's ridiculous. And a big part of the reason is because I'm gonna pick on women a little bit. I like to hold women accountable. More times than not, if you ask a woman why she got a divorce, she's a special rare breed to say, I did this, I did this, I should have done this better. He did this, he did this, I deserve this. P.S. Everybody, to deserve means to be qualified for. So you're not automatically deserving just because you feel like it. Like you need to be qualified for what you deserve. I deserve a rich man, but my credit score is okay. Okay. But if you never take a minute to say, well, what role did I play in it? Like, I have a friend who did not give her husband sex for 2 years, and then he cheated, and then she wanted to call and talk to me about it. I said, and she's waiting for me to, girl, 2 years, 2 years, 2 years. Even the Bible that y'all, first don't make me do it. 1 Corinthians 7:5 says you give Satan all kind of room if you don't set it out. That's what it says. That's what. If you're not willing to self-reflect, you also shouldn't get married, but you definitely shouldn't get married again if you're not willing to self-reflect. You're either going to attract the same spouse you left, and you're definitely going to be the same person who left the first spouse. Now you're just causing hell for the next person. Why would you do that?
I love that. I love that. It kind of makes me think of that saying: if you wake up in the morning and the first person you meet's an asshole, then they're probably the asshole. But if you wake up in the morning and by midday every person you've met is an asshole,
Guess what?
you're probably the asshole.
You're drawing the. Guess what?
Right? So that's kind of where that led my brain to. So I'm cognizant of time.
Okay.
You have a book. I think you have multiple books.
I have 3 books, but I think you're talking about the latest book, like October, that book.
It's coming out this October, or
no, it came out last October.
What is the name of this book?
Okay, so you can write, Shellie, you gonna answer the direct question, kinda. So in my first book was called Inside of Me: Lessons of Lust, Love, and Redemption. And NDR redid my forward. Thank you, India. I appreciate you. And I kind of call it my sexual autobiography. It wasn't really meant to be. It's not a lot of sex, but it's a lot of reflection and the consequences of the sex. That was 2004. And ironically, the same month my book came out was when Bill Clinton's autobiography came out. So lots of my friends had lots of jokes about that. In between that, then 2010, there was a book called Pure Heart, A Woman's Guide to Sexual Integrity. I would have never named that book that. It was a trilogy from the porn ministry I was doing. And then came my third baby, which is a 20-year update on the first book, kind of. So it's called Inside of Me 2.0, which is a play on 20 years and then the upgrade. Because I have not had nearly as much sex as I did in the first book, it's not about that. It's about spiritual narcissism, which is huge and abundant. It's about drawing boundaries with family. Let me share this because I did touch on being estranged. Let me share something about forgiveness, because people are like, well, how can you do all this with marriage and then you're estranged? I know how humans think. Let's address it real quick. One time I was in prayer time and I was really thinking about the 70 times 7 thing. You know, forgive 70 times 7, 490 times. And I was talking to the Holy Spirit and I was just like, 490 times is a long time. And the Holy Spirit immediately said, right, if you have to forgive someone 500 times, neither one of you've learned anything. That's the truth. It should not take 5. Why do we keep going around the same mountain 500 times? It's almost like Christ was saying, aren't you sick of this same problem? Aren't y'all both sick of it? So then I started building on that. And so I remembered how Matthew 6:14-15 says, if you want to get right with God, forgive. It doesn't say if you want to reconcile with people. It says if you want to get right with God. And I get why God would say that, because we all need forgiveness. How dare you not forgive other people as if you don't need forgiveness? But what I think people need to remember is 2 things. One, for reconciliation to happen, the other person needs to acknowledge what you're forgiving. Some people don't even do that much. Mm-hmm. Repent for what you're forgiving, and then make an amends for what you're forgiving them for. People really tend to grasp what they did to you or how it made you feel when they say, what can I do? When people are saying, I'm not going to keep talking about this, I'm so sick of, you're not understanding the weight of what happened. But when you say, I can't change the past, I can't ask forgiveness over and over, but what can I do to get us? That's how I know you value the relationship. How can we get to a better place? That's when we reconcile. But the second point that needs to be made is some people mess with us so much they tempt you to not forgive them, so you need to leave them alone. And that is where my estrangement is. I say often about my mom, because it's addressed in the book, and my mom is phenomenal in her own right. If she beats me to the punch, she will probably be in People magazine. And what I said in my book about her was the very reason why that woman will be in People magazine is the reason why we're estranged. She doesn't understand no to save her life. You set a boundary, she's going to cross it. If she doesn't value the boundary, that's why we're estranged. I have forgiven my mother. I look like my mother. I talk about my mother a lot. But for me to be healthy, for me to be like the full version of who I need to be, we had to say no. And it took an extreme no for her to get the no. So the book touches on that.
And that, I feel like that is important, right? And it is nuanced as well, because you have to set your boundaries. Protect your peace at all costs.
At all costs.
Right? Because that is your peace. We were born with that peace. We should nurture that
Yes.
peace. And then at the same token, if someone's going to try to impede your peace, then you have to figure out why, one. And two, if you can't figure out why, then just walk away.
Yes.
Because they're not going to tell you. They just don't respect you.
Let me tell you something that's interesting, because remember how I shared how I was born, trauma messing with that, and then me coming back to how I was born, right? Mm-hmm. Babies are so pure, and then life messes with them. And then those of us that really want to do the work, we're like, well, who was I supposed to be before life messed me up? So December 22, 2021, my townhouse blew up. I don't observe holidays, so it didn't upset me the way it would have upset a lot of people, because everybody's like 3 days before Christmas. That wasn't even the... My mom and I were already estranged. And my mom is spiritually phenomenal in her own right. But one thing she tends to be is a little bit of a spiritual hypochondriac. Like, everything goes like, well, what happens if, whatever? And then you're jittery and scared and about stuff you weren't even scared about before you were talking to her. Now you're worried. We had already been estranged. So when I looked at the firemen cutting into my roof 3 days before Christmas with 95% of my stuff gone, it was amazing to hear out of my own mouth, well, I have a pedicure appointment at 2 and I'll be back. And my landlord and my neighbor and the fire people were like, oh, she's in shock. You know what I was like? No, I'm me. The influence of my mom would have had me hysterical, trying to control it because of her influence. That's how she can get. But yeah. I was like, oh, the core Shellie doesn't get like that in a crisis. She's actually okay. It was worth it to get to me. It was worth it. It's worth it.
And here you are today.
And here I am today. And it was a sacrifice. Remember the definition, giving up something good for something greater. I don't think people really get who wants to be estranged from family, right?
Yeah.
But it was worth the sacrifice. Give up something good for something greater. You've always got to remember that. And if what you're giving up is going to get you to something better, always worth it. Through the tears, the discomfort, always worth it.
Love this. Shellie R. Warren, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Everyone who is listening, I will put the XO Nicole
okay.
website, because they can check out your writing. I'll also link your book.
Thank
your
you.
Book. So get out there and purchase Inside Me 2.0.
Oh, my chapter, what is it? I don't even know my own. What is the title? Subtitle. My chapter 20 years later?
Yes, I think that's correct. You won't be able to find Shellie R on the internet, really, because she doesn't do social media, because she protects her peace.
I got off of Facebook, and it was a lot of fun. That's how long I've been off. I'm referencing Facebook. I had a Facebook page where I would just post controversial stuff, debatable stuff. I had a rule, I don't take any comments down, and we would have a good old time. I observe Rosh Hashanah as the new year. So when Rosh Hashanah came around, I said, I'm going to go off for a month and I'll be back. And that's at least 17 years ago. It's just, I get the necessariness of social media, the validity of social media, but I also read a lot of data on social media. We are creating more narcissists than we've ever had in our lifetime. It is so destructive on so many levels. I tease the couples I work with because sometimes I'm like, so here's another like little thing. You're considered to be in a sexless marriage if you've only had sex 15 times in a year. That's sexless, which is roughly like once a month.
15 times a year?
Year is considered a sexless marriage, right? They consider a healthy marriage 4 times a month. Preferably once a week. So a lot of times when I'm dealing with couples and they are in a sexless situation or a sexually subpar situation, and I hear I don't have time, and I'm sure you can guess which gender says that more. It's not the men. We spend 2.5 hours on Instagram every day. Heterosexual couples are fine with 7 to 13 minutes of interview. Girl, you got time. You got time.
Yes.
You got time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And if y'all don't want to get married, don't have sex. I mean, if y'all don't want to have sex, don't get married. Like, who signs up for, in a traditional marriage, traditional meaning monogamous marriage, who signs up for, I'm only going to have sex with you and I'm barely going to get it? Who's doing that?
True. Very true.
If you're too selfish to have sex, you should stay single. It's a responsibility in marriage. It's not just something you do, it's a responsibility.
So, this has been a truly wonderful conversation, and I hope that you do lots of podcast episodes and more writing so that we can get these wisdom and nuggets. Absolutely. What's interesting is I am having this moment right now where I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why are you not with your own podcast?
Listen here, my friend. I hear that at least twice a week.
Fair.
I don't know. Let's just start with I don't know. But I will say this. You know what an ambivert is?
Yes.
I'm that.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the definition because there's kind of nuanced definitions, right? But I like a definition I came across, which is people assume you're extroverted, but you're actually introverted. So I think because I do so much people work.
Okay, that's fair, yeah.
It would expose me to... Like, my friends even sometimes get annoyed if we go to a restaurant. By the time we're done, I heard about your ex-husband, how he cheated on you from the server. People naturally gravitate to the sharing. And I think I enjoy being a writer and a life coach because it's boundaries. Yeah, like I can shut it off, shut it on. I do enjoy this though. I like serving people who have platforms.
Wow, this has been a very rich conversation.
I enjoy that.
And yeah, absolutely wonderful. And I want to thank you again. Get the book Inside
and you're very calming. You're very
well, good. I'm glad.
But look. It takes a gift. It takes a gift to interview. Not all podcasters are fun to get interviewed.
Well, so my approach to this was I didn't want to be a super regimented interviewer. I want to have sort of like just there's the word and it just went out of my brain that fast. But I know what that is now.
But the gift while you're thinking the word, but the gift that you have is it takes a special person to be able to be like, this is who I am, and I'm going to figure out what we have in common. So I wasn't just speaking about like, because you didn't give a list of questions. I'm saying me alone, just saying like I'm very biblical. You didn't know which way that was going to go, right?
Nope.
You dealt with Christians before. So sometimes it can be very easy for people of your community to just wall up. And now we're debating because you don't know where I'm coming from with what I'm saying. You have a gift of being able to like, well, let's just see what we have in common. Rather than seeing what we don't have in common, let's see what we do have in common.
Well, I am a firm believer that people will show you who they are.
1,000%.
So don't predict or try to guess who they are. Let them
But
show
the
you.
fact that you're self-aware enough to do that, don't knock the compliment. You hear me?
Oh, I appreciate it. I'm
It's
taking.
it's a
I will tell you.
gift. It's a gift to be
Okay.
able
I
to be
appreciate
so
it.
secure in who you are, to just be like, let's just figure out what we do have in common.
I appreciate that, and
That's
I
a
will take
gift.
it as a
That's a gift.
compliment.
That's a gift.
Um,
A lot of
thank you.
humans will never have that gift. We just want people to be just like us, and if they're not just like us, we don't want to talk to them because they're not like us.
That's so boring. We
It's
need.
also a sign of insecurity, because when you're comfortable with you should be able to talk to anybody. One of the best conversations I know, because we're both, one of the best conversations I ever had was with a married couple that were Satanists. They were awesome. And I was looking down at the wife. I was in the mall at a kiosk hanging out with some friends, and I was looking at her ring, and it was a Baphomet ring. I don't know if anybody knows, but it's like a goat.
Yeah.
And she could tell I was looking at it, and she was like, yes, we're that. And I think she was kind of already like, where's this going? I said, tell me what you all believe. Like, I'm so tired of people telling me what you believe. What do you believe?
Yes. Yes.
And she said, we actually don't worship Satan. We worship ourselves. And I said, oh, so a lot of Christians are Satanists.
No.
She said, well, damn.
That's powerful. But not wrong. So.
Well, right. I'm not, it's sometimes I've shared the story and they're like, why are you around that? I'm very comfortable with me. So I want to learn from you. And I have taken that one gem she said coast to coast. Thank you for sharing. It was awesome.
And I think that every conversation you can have with someone is a gift.
It is. You
Like,
ever read the Celestine Prophecy?
The pardon?
The Celestine Prophecy?
I have not.
Okay. We really could go forever, right?
We really could.
So, the legend of the Celestine Prophecy. Now you got to get it. The legend of Celestine Prophecies, once people bring it up, it's time for you to read it. That's the legend of it. But
Okay.
one of the things it says in the book is anyone that makes eye contact with you has a message for you. We're just too busy to get the message. So your world will open up if you're like at a coffee. We're always like, why are you trying to talk to me? But if someone's looking at you, sometimes you should say, you want to say something, or what would you like to share? They often have something specifically to say that you could benefit from.
I like that a lot. Mm-hmm. Well, I tell you this. I feel different than I did when we started this conversation. Enriched, if you will. So, and my assumption or the energy that I was getting from when I was reading your things is very much on what you are in this call. But you also have this, how do I explain it? Like this really sort of enveloping presence.
Mm.
It's big, but it's safe and it's enveloping. Does that make sense?
I've grown into safe. Thank you.
Yes. Well, and that does, remember, for anybody who's watched the whole podcast, that takes sacrifice.
I've grown into safe. There's a book called Safe People, Henry Cloud and John Townsend. Are you familiar with them as authors?
No, but I'm keeping all these.
Henry Cloud and John Townsend for sure. They're Christian authors that only talk about boundaries. That's kind of all they talk about. But isn't that a blessing? That your ministry is teaching people boundaries. And one of the great, and it's a pamphlet, like you sit on the toilet and read it. And one of the best things about the book is it's not just showing you who's safe for you, but showing you if you're unsafe. And because of a lot of what I was exposed to as a child and the trauma of that, one of my favorite quotes is adulthood is surviving childhood. So a lot of times we're so angry at what happened to us, we become a lot of what happened to us, right? Whether it's our energy, our attitude. And so that was another reason why I had to make some of the sacrifices I made, because I was like, I know what it's like to feel unsafe. I can't be unsafe. But I had a season when I was unsafe. So again, thank you, for saying that. Because it's very different. My friends, I enjoy my friendships because we don't dish what we can't take. So they call me on my shit when I need to hear it, and I'm grateful. But they have told me, like, you've grown a lot in your femininity. You've grown a lot in being safe. You've grown a lot in being peaceful, just calmer.
Yes.
Like, I even had to work on, because you grew up in the church, I'm sure you're familiar with spiritual gifts. And one of my top is discernment. And there's this website, and I need to go look it up because I keep shouting it out, but I forget the name of it, and that's not cool. But it was so awesome because it lists like how your spiritual gifts look when you're spiritual, and then how it looks when you're carnal. And one of the things about discernment is when you're just in yourself, you're presumptuous. You're not discerning. So I spent a lot of time just like, I want to be the kind of person that when people come around, they feel okay being them. I knew what it was like to not feel okay in people's space. But that took a lot of work. So thank you. Because when people that know you say that, it's just different than when people that don't know you say that.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're very
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here. I have a funny feeling in my belly that this is not our last conversation.
Let's path cross again, for sure.
Absolutely. So you've written the book. It's out. It came out in October. What's next for you? Just for people at home listening.
I have no idea.
Well, and that's fine.
I don't.
Right? Isn't that fine?
I have no idea. I'm kind of learning to. I mean, like the goals that I'm working on right now is, look, anyone in their 20s listening to this, it is a lie to live your 20s like it's your teens 2.0. It's a lie. Because then you have to heal in your 30s and then you're middle-aged. It's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So I was so financially reckless in my 20s and 30s, my 40s and 50s, and going into my 50s. I'm doing so much repairing of like, I can't believe the next tall is 60. And it's not because I have a problem with aging. It's because I can't believe how fast this really does go. Mm-hmm. This thing called life. So a lot of what's going on right now is just let me adult. Like, I just in the past couple of years got, what's the insurance that keeps people from suing you? That.
Errors and omissions? Liability?
Because I life coach. So it's a form of liability insurance, but it's like if someone said, she ruined my marriage and I'm going to sue her. I think it's actually is liability. I just got that. I've been doing this 20 years. That's ridiculous. So a lot of this, what I'm doing, or saving money, stacking $500 a month so I can actually. So it's kind of like I'm not even really in a season of like professional goal setting. I just need to be a stable freaking adult. Like my life needs to look like I'm almost 51. 51. I got life insurance for my godchildren. I just got life insurance for my god. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So a lot of the focus, God is dope like that too, though. Because my mom used to say, clean one room at a time. People always say they want to clean their house. And it was years of, let me get emotionally healthy. Let me get mentally stable. Let me get sexually secure. And now God's like, let's get these finances together. Yes. Especially if I'm not, a lot of women don't want to hear this, but it's a running statement that's got a lot of truth. Some women's greatest retirement plan is marriage. If I don't get married, and I may not. Okay, so I guess briefly touch on that too. Do I ever want to get married? I would be embracing of a healthy marriage. I think that's the best way to put it. It's not a want or a not want. I'm embracing of a healthy marriage.
In the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't happen, I need to prepare for what life looks like if that doesn't.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that.
You've been an absolute treasure to talk to, honestly. And who cares if it's an hour and 20 minutes? It was a podcast worth filming. It was a podcast worth watching.
Let me tell you, that's fine. One more thing.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Okay, because if you like Shellie, shut up. We're close enough now. You can be like Shellie, shut up. One more thing. I did a podcast interview with a woman 2 weeks ago that was 3.5 hours. When I got on with her, I said, I got 40 minutes. 3.5 hours later. And by the time we were done with that interview, she unblocked her husband that she was divorced from and asked could they meet.
That's powerful. So question for you as we're signing off now. If somebody wants to work with you, how do they get in touch with you?
So my mother and my brother both live in South Africa. They're both married to Zulu South Africans. And her husband decided to give us African names. And I'm sharing this because you're like, what is that email address? And the African name that he gave me is Nosipho. And it means God's blessing to those she's around. And that's why I've never gotten rid of the address. It's missnosipho @gmail.com. People say all the time, like, can't you just have a Shellie Warren? No, I'm God's blessing to those she's around @gmail.
I love it. I love it. I will link that as well because if you want to work with Shellie R. Warren, reach out, get connected, and let the good works happen.
You have everybody a gift, stay in your gift.
Yes.
You.
Oh, I hear you. Thank you, and I will for sure.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
It was my pleasure as well. For everyone at home, I want you to get out there and live your wildest dreams. Until next time.
For media and sponsorship inquiries, email info@cksims.com or visit cksims.com and fill out the contact form. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A new episode airs every Saturday. CKS Media.